Alright guys, so I've been thinking a lot lately about our education system, and I'm sure you've seen videos on the internet like this one.
The reason university is such a massive scam, and I said this a million times,
Which is absolutely ripping into the value of a college degree. I mean, in that video, he outright calls it a scam, but the thing is, Andrew Tate isn't alone in this ideology. Recently, influencers and even famous business leaders have stepped out and questioned the educational system, which has been the backbone of how we were all told how to succeed in life, right? Go to school, get a job, get the degree, and then finally, one day, get that house with the white picket fence, retire, travel, do all the amazing things we want before we pass away. The question that remained in my head, and probably yours too if you clicked on this video, is does that really set us up for success in life? Look, maybe you're in high school right now and you're trying to decide if you should even stick it through, or maybe you're a senior and you're about to go off to college, but you're suddenly having second thoughts about if it's the right route. Perhaps you're even in college already, or you're getting serious about pursuing an upper level program like an MBA, but after hearing all this stuff online, you're having conflicting thoughts and maybe you should just hang on to that extra money you would have otherwise blown on tuition and had to pay off for the next 5 to 10 plus years of your life. And look, I've been in all those positions. You see, I started my first online business out of my dorm room in college when I was 18 years old. Eventually, I was making so much money that I just decided the best route for me at the time would be to drop out and put 100% of my focus into online business. But for those of you who've been following me for years and the decisions I've been making, you may know already that this was somewhat of a mistake. And you see, that mistake was part of my recent 180 to actually go back to school and finish a semester. So bottom line is, I'm someone who clearly knows both sides of the coin. I've made millions of dollars by myself in the online world. I've went to college or university, dropped out, and then decided to go back. But you see, throughout this whole process, I was curious and I dove deep into the education system, and I knew that one day I'd be able to make a video just like this and break it down to all of you. I wanted to know why the educational system was structured the way that it is, how it even got there in the first place, and if it really works or is it just outright a scam? And when I looked for a better understanding of it and I searched incessantly for the pros and cons, I noticed that there's extremely limited information. From what I could find, there's also nobody like me and no comprehensive YouTube videos talking about the subject. Instead, we have an abundance of online money influencers like Andrew Tate selling programs to try to replace the traditional educational system. And as someone from both worlds, I didn't just want to make this video strictly around my opinion either. I'm going deep into the data, providing you with real facts and real figures to paint a real picture of exactly how and why the traditional education system can still help you today, or if it can't. But even further than that, I went macro. You see, I wanted to figure out how the educational system can actually impact a country on a much, much larger scale. You see, all this stuff is a lot more connected than you might think, and the success of it might be tied in a lot more than you realize. Listen, the educational system hasn't failed you. You have. All right, so first, how did we even get here? Let's take a quick trip back in time and discuss how the US educational system got its start in the first place. In the 1600s, education across America was mostly just a private thing. You had your wealthy families hiring tutors or small communities pooling together to teach kids reading, writing, and some basic arithmetic. This started to evolve, and by the 1800s, things really started to shift. Enter Horace Mann. This guy is known as the father of American public education. And in the 1830s, he was like, hey, everyone deserves an education, not just the rich kids. He pushed for public schools funded by taxes so that everyone could have a shot at learning. Mann wanted schools to be what he called the great equalizer. He wanted them to be a place where kids from all backgrounds could come and learn the basics they needed to exist within society. He believed that education would level the playing field for everybody, no matter where you came from or how much money you made. His hypothesis was that if everybody had a fair shot at education, then everybody would have a fair shot at a successful life. In his mind, if you are educated, you are empowered. You could come from nothing, but if you had the knowledge, you could make moves, climb ladders, and reach new heights you never once thought was possible. And Mann believed it wasn't just a way for individuals to level up, but it was also a way for society to improve as a whole. That means fewer social issues, less poverty, and more innovation. So with Mann's writings as a guide, by the early 1900s, we had something close to what you see today. Public schools for grades K through 12. These were designed to prepare kids for either the workforce or higher level education. education. And let's talk about higher education now, because how did universities or college become such a key player in the whole getting successful thing? Universities have been around for a long time, actually since the 1100s in some countries across Europe. Again though, these universities were pretty much only reserved for the elite of the elites, like the ultra wealthy or those who are already predisposed into careers like philosophy or medicine. Schools like Oxford and Cambridge were popping up, but they were very exclusive clubs at the time, teaching only small select students at one time. Fast forward to the Industrial Revolution in the 1800s, and this is where things really got rolling. Industries were booming, machines were taking over, and suddenly people needed more than just basic reading, writing, and arithmetic. They needed technical skills, as well as a deeper understanding of how the world actually worked. Whether it was in engineering, business, science, or tech, universities started to become the centralized hubs where specialized learning like this could take place. By the 20th century, especially post-World War II, universities really became critical. After the war, governments, particularly in Europe and the US, realized that if they wanted to compete globally, they needed a more leveled up workforce. Congress then passed the GI Bill in the US, which basically gave war veterans access to college education. Suddenly, university wasn't only for the elites, rather it was for anybody who wanted to level up. Then during the 1950s to the 1980s, college basically became your golden ticket to success. The economy was booming and employers were rapidly searching for anybody who had specialized skills and was coming out of a top college. Whether you wanted to be an engineer, a doctor, or even climb the corporate ladder, a degree from university became the standard just to start unlocking those doors and enter the workforce. By the time we hit the 2000s, the world had fully shifted into more of a knowledge-based economy, where having a degree wasn't just a plus that could open a bunch of doors, but it's pretty much expected. Jobs in tech, science, and healthcare were booming, and universities became these massive hubs of innovation and opportunity for millions of people around the world. And this is why we are now left at a crossroads. While universities have been critical for our success for decades, today's world is really starting to shake up that narrative. With tech, AI, alternative ways to learn like YouTube and online courses, the university system truly isn't the only path anymore to success and financial riches. So now what we're dealing with is a whole new set of questions. We need to figure out if the system we've built over the last few hundred years actually still works, or is it holding us back in an age where all this information is at our fingertips and new ways of making money simply just don't require a degree. Let's talk about the critics' argument. Who are all these people saying that the traditional education system is holding us all back? And can we really trust what they're saying? First off, it's not just one group of people. You got a whole bunch of voices out there. Tech gurus, social media stars, all of whom are challenging the status quo. I mentioned a clip of Andrew Tate before.
The smartest thing you can do is look at somebody's life and go, this guy is living or he's doing exactly what I want to do. I'll learn from him.
But then you've also got billionaire tech entrepreneurs like Peter Thiel. Peter is one of the leaders of the whole anti-upper level education movement. He's even started this program called the Thiel Fellowship, where he literally pays young people a few $100,000 to drop out of school and work on their own projects. The fellowship is advertised as an alternative for young people who want to build cool, new, and exciting things instead of sitting around a classroom all day. Then there's this whole new generation of Gen Z influencers on YouTube and TikTok. Familiar names you might have heard like Graham Stephan, who started working in real estate when he was just 18 years old and has since made millions of dollars in residential sales without any kind of college degree. And Iman Gadzhi, who says on his YouTube channels that he's built one of the world's leading education companies and making over $50 million in profit. Yeah, and all that by the age of 23. When most people his age are simply starting their first job. Both speak about hustling, becoming your own boss, with ever stepping a foot inside of a college classroom. They clearly believe that the BA or MBA route is just a colossal waste of time. And they're getting a lot of traction. Millions of followers who are listening to these messages. Next, you have alternative education advocates. Take a look here at the late Sir Ken Robinson. You might have seen his TED Talk where he basically said that schools are crushing kids' creativity and hurting their chances at real success.
Kids with degrees are often heading home to carry on playing video games.
Sir Ken and others in the, quote, unschooling or homeschooling world think traditional schools just don't let kids shine in the way that they're meant to. There are a few more critics whose arguments I'd like to point out, like Gary Vaynerchuk, aka Gary V, who's always going on about how you don't need a college degree to be successful. He's all about using real-world experience to carve your own path in life. You see, many of these kids end up leaving college with a mountain of debt. tuition is skyrocketed, which means students are borrowing more and more just to pay for room, board, and all other expenses that are associated with going off to college. Entrepreneurs like Mark Cuban have also criticized the current system, arguing that student debt is stifling innovation and keeping young people from taking risks and starting businesses. And then there are economists. These are the people who study the big picture of how money, resources, and goods actually move around. They look at stuff like jobs, prices, inflation, and global markets. So when they even hate on education too, we should really start to listen. Brian Kaplan is an economist who wrote the controversial book titled The Case Against Education. This guy argues that most of the stuff we learn in school is pretty much irrelevant to the life we actually live today, and that it's more about showing that you can jump through hoops, put your head down, and work hard than actually acquiring any kind of useful life skills. There are tons of haters across any industry when it comes to the education system. But overall, it's a lot of opinions, right? Now, let's get into the facts. I wanted to understand the sheer numbers. Are people who actually go to college or university better off? Are they making more money than people who don't? And this is very complex, but the short answer is yeah. The data clearly shows that people who go to college or university, on average, earn significantly more money over their lifetime than those who don't. Take the US, for example. If you've got a bachelor's degree, you're likely to earn about $1.2 million more over your career than somebody with a simple high school diploma. That's data from a nonprofit called the APLU, or the Association of Public and Land Grant Universities. And I know, okay, you're probably thinking to yourself, well, that information is coming from the universities themselves. And yes, you'd be correct. But the APLU is an advocacy organization of public research universities. So if you're skeptical, I went straight to the US tax returns to get more data. And the US Census Bureau and the Bureau of Labor Statistics confirms those with a bachelor's degree make about 67% more than those who have only finished high school. On average, of course. Annual median earnings for someone who only holds a high school diploma, on the other hand, is just a mere $36,000. On the whole, more education generally equals more money. Now, of course, we all know the major outliers. Steve Jobs, Mark Zuckerberg, Elon Musk, the list goes on. These guys all dropped out of college and then went on to make billions. Thing is, the data I just mentioned shows these guys are the exception, not the rule. For every college dropout who makes it really big, there are thousands more who don't hit the jackpot and end up with a lifetime of struggle on $36,000 a year. Now, of course, education is not a surefire way to get rich either. I mean, first of all, what you study matters a ton. For example, someone with a degree in the STEM field is going to pull in a lot more on average than somebody in a degree like history or art. In fact, this recent Forbes article showed the highest paying major is engineering. Those straight out of college, on average, started with an annual salary of $91,420 as of 2023. So hold all that in the back of your head and let's now zoom out a little bit. What does this mean for a nation? Education is not simply about just landing a good paycheck. It's actually tied to the entire economy of a country. Like, countries with more educated people tend to have much stronger economies. Why? Simple. When people are educated to a higher level, they have a better chance of coming up with innovative and new ideas that progress and push society forward. All around, businesses boom more and society becomes a lot more productive. Here's a stat for you. A study by the OECD, that would be the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, found that for every additional year of schooling, a country's GDP can increase by about 4%. More education also equals a stronger economy. And without a solid education system, a country can really start to fall apart. You see more poverty, less innovation, and a workforce that's stuck in the past. It's like trying to run today's tech with a dial-up connection from the 90s. It just doesn't work. It's not all just about the money. There's this ripple effect too. You see, more educated populations tend to be healthier, live longer, and even vote more. The World Bank backs this up. More educated people are also less likely to commit crimes in their area and more likely to participate and get involved in their communities. So what if a country just ditched education altogether? Without education, you'd have a workforce that doesn't have the skills or the capabilities to keep up with modern jobs, which means less productivity. And the result? The country falls behind, especially as other nations continually pump out a more educated and skillful workforce. And yeah, these effects would hit even harder for people with less money. The wealthy would still find the ways to get an education. Like I said earlier in the video, they'll just go back to using their private tutors. Everybody else, we'd get left in the dust. Over time, you'd see more poverty, higher crime rates, and lower life expectancy. Basically, the gap between rich and poor would grow even wider, and the country would struggle to keep pace with the rest of the world. The bottom line is that the data is pretty dang clear. Education matters. For individuals trying to make more money, sure, but also for the strength of an economy, an entire country to continue prospering in our world today. And while people are finding alternative paths more than ever to make money, like trades or starting an online business, a solid education can still be a solid way to build a future. So we've gone through the history of the education system. We've got the data to back up how it can help individuals and also a country at large. Now I want to share a bit about my personal journey going to college, dropping out, and then returning. And this boomerang that I've gone through is probably why I personally got so interested in investigating this subject a lot further, and is ultimately why I titled this video, "The Education System Hasn't Failed You. You have." Because I think in some ways, I blame myself. See, I was 18, sitting in my little dorm room in college, and instead of just doing the whole school thing, I was hustling and trying to build my online business from my computer. I was going to class, of course, but my head was always in the business game. And I got sent home, and I remember being so fortunate at the time because that meant I could pour a lot more hours every single day into my online businesses. I was quickly making more money than I could have ever imagined. I mean, I started clearing 6 figures a month in profit by the age of 19 and a half, 20. Around then, I also started documenting everything social. You can check back over the past 4 years of my life on my YouTube channel, my Instagram highlights, TikTok accounts. I was bringing you guys along with me for the ride, and let me tell you, it was crazy. I was living in West Hollywood at one point, spending money left, right, and center, designer clothes, bottle service, buying way too much, and not making the smartest moves at all because I was young and making a load of cash. Clearly, I was not ready for anything near those levels of success. And my businesses even started to slip because I was more focused on maintaining the lifestyle than I was on maintaining what actually got me there in the first place. And sure enough, life hit me hard. Family relationships, friends, business, everything came crumbling down around me. And I had to look myself in the mirror and realize I was not ready for that level of success yet. So long story short, I figured it out. Fast forward a couple years, made multiple millions, traveled the world, got to know who I truly was on the inside, but something still felt off. And that is why I decided to go back to university. Not because I needed the degree to make money. Clearly, I was doing pretty well for myself without it, but it was more because I had left something unfinished. So here's where I'm gonna give my argument on why the education system isn't necessarily a bad thing, and ultimately why it hasn't necessarily failed you either. If you're in a position you're not happy with in your life, but I hate to say it, but chances are you're the only one to be held accountable for that. Not the school system, not the government, not what all of these influencers are telling you to believe. It's in your internal control to turn this situation around, school system or not. And look, school has fundamental tools. And I'm not just talking about reading, writing, and math. It's about building some serious discipline and work ethic into your life. Look, I've made millions of dollars, traveled around the world, bought my dream cars, taken care of my family. I'm living out here in Dubai, you name it. But somehow I still found myself back in the classrooms. Because no matter how successful I'll be in business, school has given me the foundation and the tools that I need to then self-educate myself and reach these levels. School has forced me to show up at 8 a.m. every single morning, no excuses, or I'm kicked the hell out. And honestly, that routine in and of itself has been a game changer for me. When I'm inside of a semester of school, my businesses actually grow even more because that daily structure keeps me grounded and keeps me in attack mode all day long. It's like a system reboot. You see, I've done this before, so coming back to the classroom now has helped me prioritize my time and refocus everything. It's all about keeping yourself sharp, and school gives me that framework. You see, education is about a lot more than just money. Look at all the people who are so avidly rejecting the traditional education system. Most of them, I'd say 80%, are just so focused on making as much money as possible. And yes, I've got it all, but education is about more than just making money. There's something deeply personal about it. It's about growth, discussion, analysis, and it can also be about feeling complete. Even with all the millions of dollars that I made over the past few years, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was incomplete. And I'm the kind of person who can't just start something and not finish it. Here's another thing that the influencers who all hate on the school system don't take into account. The real power duo is the foundation of a traditional educational system, stacked on top, self-education, real-world experience, YouTube education, online courses. I believe it is your duty, if you want to be successful, to self-educate, to build financial literacy skills, to get out and have real-world experience experience, to do all the things that the school system can't do for you. Like I said, I started my first business my first year in college, and in the span of 1 year, I managed to get straight A's in college while making $15,000 a month and even hiring a few students at my university. And yes, once I got much deeper into e-commerce and started making great money, I dropped out. But the truth is, a lot of what I picked up in school did help me navigate the business world. So coming back now, it's not about choosing one or the other, it's about combining both, using the learnings and teachings from traditional education while also following the Gen Z influencers, the new ways to make money, all of the new AI innovation and ways to tap in and take advantage of our world today. I'm sick and tired of so many people making it out to be that you have to choose one or the other. That is what's confusing the heck out of high school kids, seniors deciding to go to college, people in college. I mean, I was there, and through all of it, I was scrolling social media and I saw people like Andrew Tate yelling at me saying, "What the hell are you doing in school?" But then I'd get home and my parents would be like, "Stay in school, stay focused, don't listen to this Andrew Tate guy." And I had such conflicting views from everywhere in my life. I didn't know what to do. So I'm of the belief that if you have an opportunity to get an upper level education, take it. And while you're taking it, don't forget to learn from the new Gen Z influencers and all of the new ways you can make money in today's world using the internet as a young person. And one more thing, school will keep you sharp because money will always be there. You just have to go collect it. But the hustle never ends. And being back in school taught me that there's still so much I have to learn. You can never know everything, and that's part of the game. Lifelong learning is what truly keeps you sharp. It's not just about the degree, it's about being open to new learnings and new challenges so that you're always ready for whatever comes next. Now, I do think it would be wrong for me if I didn't at least talk for a minute about pressures that I faced growing up with my family and society. Because yes, my parents have always been big on education. My mom was a teacher, and my dad went through many, many years of schooling. He actually came from a third world country to build a new life for himself in Canada and give that same opportunity to his children. So I'm sure you can imagine what dropping out really felt like for me, regardless of how much money I was making. My parents knew that I was making great money, so they certainly didn't force me back into the books, but deep down, I knew it was important for them and me to finish what I had started. It's about honoring the sacrifices that they made, and perhaps a bit of that pressure too is internal. It's part of what drives me to succeed. Going back to school is just as much about my personal growth as it is about respecting everything my parents did to give me this opportunity in the first place. So overall, I believe school is a tool. Back in the day when rich kids had tutors, they were able to learn and read and write and build businesses in their manners. It continued to be a tool when education became more accessible, when public schools started popping up, and it wasn't just the rich who had access to all of this learning. It became a way for everyday people to have a shot at success. And today, things have changed. The system is extremely flawed in so many ways. Trust me, I've been involved with it for so many years now. But at the same time, you can't blame a hammer for not building a house if you never picked it up in the first place. The same goes for education. It's there to be a resource and it's there to help you along your journey. But if you don't take advantage of what you're getting out of it, then the blame is on you. Am I upset that there's other influencers who are absolutely hating on the school system and calling it an outright scam? Absolutely not. I think it's extremely important to have differing viewpoints on this so that we can all dive deeper and learn for ourselves what our best route forward is. But here's where I do disagree with them. Just because they became successful without a college education does not mean that the education system is useless for everyone. I'm also not one of those people that thinks education is the end all be all either. I hate it when people act like the education system is the only thing that matters and the only way that you're going to be able to be successful in this world. So sure, school is important, it will help you make more money, it can be a fantastic tool, but so is self-education and real-world experience. Arguably even more important, if you ask me. Upper-level education for the vast majority of people still opens a lot of doors that would have otherwise been slammed shut. My parents, like I said, they highly regard education. They always instilled that in me, and I'm never gonna turn around and say to them, "Oh yeah, well you forgot to tell me that I could get rich without graduating from college," which I technically did, but I'd never point those fingers because they just wanted what's best for me, and that's all that they knew. And at the end of the day, who's in control of your life? You are the only one who can take full responsibility and control over your life and decide on your unique path forward. And I think everyone can agree with me that waiting for a degree from some college to give you permission to do what you want to do with your life is stupid. Do what you want to do right now, whether you're in school or not. Don't blame the past. Take full accountability and control over your actions. And if you want to change your life, then you got to make it happen. Let's go.